All right. Want me to answer some more questions here? Well, you know what? I got notes all together. And the next one that's in line is, simply put, why is that you're obsessed with Dragon Ball Z? If you remember from the first few episodes of Why Is That 3.0, then you know that I was wearing a long sleeve t-shirt that I got from an anime store in Canada, which they sent to me for free. I guess they were just big fans of my work, so of course they wanted to gift me with something, probably from the holidays, but being that it was a while after that, I don't know exactly what the purpose of that one was. Still very grateful for that though. But I did also find this, in that same exact outlet. But this one I actually bought from them. And 2XL, I mean, it doesn't feel much like 2XL to me, unless it's made to be tight fit. But no matter the case, a Broly long sleeve tee, Dragon Ball Z, or could I just say Dragon Ball Super, as that's exactly the continuity that we're still in. And with the talks about a reboot series to Dragon Ball Super, I am pretty darn stoked about what they could potentially offer. They shut down the series in 2018 as soon as Dragon Ball Super Broly decided to show up. And then Dragon Ball Super Super Hero came by, and oh my gosh, was it amazing. You have no idea unless you actually see it for yourself. If you remember when I talked about this in films I should have talked about years ago, Season 2 last year, then man, you just know that the excitement for the film was just all up in the air. And I've seen how amazing that they were able to pull it off. And so, at the end of the day, Dragon Ball Super Superhero has definitely done more than just, simply put, seal the deal for the future of the franchise. And all the talks about Dragon Ball Super getting a reboot series, not to mention some other Dragon Ball related stuff that's also happened. Look at all that we have to deal with now. There's so many franchises that are ongoing, so many people on the internet talking about Dragon Ball, so many channels dedicated to scenarios about what could happen if certain elements from the story of Dragon Ball have been changed. I mean, I really am interested in the likes of what Masako X, Carthu's Dojo, and Salad Saiyan. Any of them can create an amazing story for themselves. I especially loved how well Carthu himself was actually able to pull off some incredible feats here and there. I'll gladly put a link to his channel in the description box down below so you can check him out for yourself. Same would go with Masako X and Salad Saiyan, in case you weren't aware that they existed as well. But of course, let's just not forget, Dragon Ball has made such a huge following in recent years, or better yet, in recent decades. It's been around for a long time. Toriyama, the man who originally created the franchise himself, the characters and whatnot, all the way back in 1984. So it's basically on par with the likes of such franchise jumpstarts like the start of Transformers, Terminator, Ninja Turtles. Well, they were in the comics section at that time. But in 87 was when the Ninja Turtles started getting their own share of fame on the screens, small as well as large, as the years went by. But the point is that 1984 was such a busy year in terms of different franchises starting up for the very first time. And that's quite an achievement if you ask me. Probably one thing that's very familiar about the year 1984, if anyone was even alive at that point. But you know what though? There's just a lot more to it than just how long that it has been around for. The story of Dragon Ball itself, Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT, Dragon Ball Super, Dragon Ball anything else, there's just so much out there that we gotta learn. It started off with a young baby with a tail who crash lands on Earth from a planet that was recently destroyed and raised by a hermit who then unfortunately dies because of what happens to the baby at one point. Eventually the baby grows up to be a nice kid and has great adventures and a huge appetite. Eventually going over to a martial arts tournament, competes with his friends, his teachers, and other peers that he's known throughout his life, and eventually finds himself a love interest. He gets married, has a child named Gohan. They all go out to the same house that his teacher is at, visit with some friends and here and there, introduce Gohan to the crew. But then, unfortunately, Goku's own brother finally appears on Earth in search of him to find out what he's been doing his whole life. But let's just say his brother was not at all a good person. Kidnaps his son, takes him away, and some people are just forced to fight back. A friend and a foe basically have an alliance together so they can take down this threat and rescue the kid himself. Gohan manages to help gain the upper hand. Go falls unconscious, is left to survive out in the wilderness, gets frightened by all sorts of things. And you know, the story that goes from then on out, two other Saiyans show up and start destroying the planet and kill some people here and there. Then a little trip out to another planet in search of 7 orbs that allow wishes to be granted. It turns into a huge fight with the Tyrant, the Saiyan Tyrant responsible for destroying the home world that Goku himself was once in, as well as all the other Saiyans. And tons of other arcs, storylines, and whatnot to follow up with. It's just a never-ending cycle. In total, there have been more than 10 different sagas, all within the main canon. You have the Saiyan Saga, you got the Namek Saga, you got Android Saga, the Majin Buu Saga, and then followed up with the likes of Battle of Gods, Resurrection F, Tournament 6 Power, Goku Black Arc, and then we have ourselves the likes of various other things that happen in between the arcs, just as a way to fill in the time, as Dragon Ball Super really pushes out the ideas here and there, and also has some pretty hilarious things to go along with it. And you know what? I could be here all day talking about the likes of Dragon Ball, from what I remembered the most, the many memories I've managed to gain through doing all sorts of things Dragon Ball related, and then of course all the Kamehamehas I did as a kid. But that'd be a little too complicated, so I'll just leave this all as it is. So thank you very much for watching this, and I may be obsessed, but at least it's the healthy type.